get to Tim Walz, who, just when you think no one's sitting at this table, neither she nor the big white blanket, can embarrass themselves any further, he does. She asks him, to her credit, about the carrying the weapons in war, which we know is a lie. He never served in war. He's been stealing valor for quite some time.
For years, Tim Walz built his image as the friendly face of Minnesota, a reputation that carried him with ease. The unconventional governor would smile, shake hands, and flash his signature Ashooks gesture, appearing effortlessly approachable. But the moment Megyn Kelly steps onto the scene, that calm picture starts to crumble. She exposes the reality behind the polished mask, a leader whose charm can't hide the opportunism, missteps, and contradictions that trail behind him.
So out on the new media tour and trying to help her when he's not defending his comments on the Electoral College. And he sits down with Michael Strahan, who's the best thing ABC has going. And Strahan actually asks him about his many, many lies. There's a much longer list than actually came up, but he did raise it to his credit. Here's how.
As governor, Tim Walz has worked hard to present himself as the picture of balance, a Midwestern parent who also happens to lead the state. He wraps himself in that warm, neighborly image of Minnesota life, the kind of person you'd expect to show up at a church potluck with a casserole and a tale from his high school football days. But when Megyn Kelly turns her focus on him, that carefully built image collapses quicker than a folding chair in a storm. Behind the friendly grin and reassuring words stands a politician who has played both sides whenever it suited him.
That you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in school.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the bell icon and subscribe to the channel. For Megyn Kelly, it isn't just the contradictions that make her laugh. She exposes them as clearly as a spotlight catching a raccoon in the backyard. Tim Walz has often been praised as the Midwest's steady hand, but in reality, his approach looks more like juggling, telling one group one thing while offering something entirely different to another. Kelly isn't impressed with Minnesota's safe, predictable routine either. To her, Walz isn't a leader at all. He's more like beige wallpaper.
Statements that just aren't true. And the comment about weapons of war that I carried in war, which you didn't. You said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre when you weren't. You kind of chalked it all up to bad grammar or getting the dates wrong.
Yeah.
But your opponents say you lied to make yourself look better. Do they have a point?
Well, look, 35 years ago, got the opportunity to be in Hong Kong, be in China, learned a lot about it, served 24 years in the National Guard, passionately, in an instance, talking about gun violence in schools.
Walz's style of leadership is troubling because it leans heavily on pretending problems don't exist, at least until they're too obvious to ignore. Rising crime rates. He offers a shrug and a feel-good line about community values. Struggles in education. He's there in a classroom smiling for the cameras as if a cheerful photo op could solve the issue. Yet real solutions remain as rare as a Minnesota summer lasting more than a couple of weeks. Kelly highlights this pattern clearly, showing how Walz has replaced genuine problem solving with simply posing beside the problems instead.
It continues for Tim Walz on the disastrous performance he delivered, in particular when it comes to his self-described knuckle-headed behavior, which was just his latest in a series of lies. The reason he resorted to, I'm a knucklehead, was he got confronted with his latest lie.
But Megyn's criticism goes beyond the lack of real substance. The contradictions practically write themselves. Walz portrays himself as a champion of small-town values, yet his policies often look as if they were lifted straight from the agendas of big city administrations. He speaks of freedom and accountability, but then backs government overreach. Whenever it serves his political allies, Megyn lays the pattern bare. Walz isn't leading, he's shifting. A political chameleon, he changes colors to suit the crowd before him.
People know me, they know who I am, they know where my heart is, and again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog.
This took chutzpah. Let's go through it. You said you carried weapons in war, but you've never deployed in a war zone. A campaign official of yours said you misspoke. Did you? Well, I'm proud, incredibly proud of my record.
What really fuels the debate is Kelly's breakdown of Walz's crisis management. The pandemic put his role as governor to the ultimate test, and the cracks showed fast. One moment he was handing out directives like Halloween candy, and the next he was tripping over conflicting messages that left people more confused than informed. Kelly argues that staying calm on camera isn't the same as being effective. Sure, he didn't look rattled in front of the press, but behind the scenes, his leadership seemed as organized as a rummage sale in a monsoon. Rules shifted constantly, priorities flipped overnight, and his explanations sounded more like excuses for unfinished homework than clear guidance. Instead of steady leadership, the public got a reassuring smile wrapped around chaos.
On Earth, there's a long list of them. This one was that he was in China when the Tiananmen Square disaster unfolded, when hundreds of people were killed. You know whether you were in a place where hundreds of people are being massacred by their government when it happens. But he continues to try to say, like, oh, gee, I was just kind of confused. You know, that happened in May and I was there in August, but I guess I just imagined that I was there, whatever. So he got asked about that debate moment where he completely melted down.
Walz's stance on public safety and policing is riddled with contradictions. When the cameras are on, he criticizes law enforcement, but the moment activists push back, he quickly retreats. According to Megyn, his so-called leadership during times of social unrest was little more than political cover. He let chaos linger, mistaking inaction for understanding, but empathy doesn't restore peace, and listening alone doesn't stop riots. Kelly calls him out for trying to satisfy everyone and in the process, alienating them all. She compares his approach to a Minnesota winter, endlessly dragging on, full of promises of spring that never seem to arrive. Megyn also challenges the notion that Walz is relatable. While he clings to the image of a small-town high school teacher from Nebraska.
Well, they're comparing this moment by Tim Walz to that because he looked so inept and like a faker. Like he didn't belong there and he was trying to convince us of something that wasn't real as he decided to go pheasant hunting. And Charlie, you're a gun guy. You tell me whether this looked authentic to you. Here he is.
That's not quite Gary, and it never fits quite right. Never fits quite right. It's not quite right. How do you give it back?
Governor, what kind of gun is it?
This is a Beretta A400.
When Walz tries to brand himself as one of us, Kelly mocks the claim, pointing out that he spent so long inside the political bubble that his only small-town memories now come from campaign advisors. She takes aim at his economic record too, criticizing high taxes, reckless spending, and poor services. It's like stocking your kitchen with every fancy gadget, yet still not being able to cook a meal. Kelly asks, if Walz struggles to run Minnesota without confusion and mixed signals, how could he possibly lead the entire country? She dismisses his ambitions for higher office with biting humor. A man running a lemonade stand suddenly thinking he's ready to manage Starbucks. In her view, Walz has mastered photo ops and applause lines, but when ambition isn't matched with genuine skill, it turns into nothing more than wishful thinking.
Equally proud of my service in the classroom. Did I mention I was a teacher and a coach, an assistant coach? Okay, whatever. But he's more stolen valor. In the classroom, I'm in the classroom. My record speaks for itself. It doesn't actually. You've put a lot of lies into that record that you've been called out on by service personnel. You must clarify, as your campaign had tried to do, and now you appear to be distancing yourself from that clarification. And then here's, two pieces of this that are really, I speak like they do. People are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about, and then he goes on to blame it on the school shootings. I guess he was upset about school shootings, so he lied. But stop saying you speak.
Kelly even challenges the idea that Walz is some kind of unifier. His supporters may insist he brings people together, but the only real unity he sparks is when audiences roll their eyes at his speeches. Democrats see him as overly cautious, Republicans view him as reckless, and independents doubt he could make a firm choice, even if everything depended on it. True unity isn't something you can claim. It has to be earned. The irony, Kelly points out, is that Walz has brought people together only through shared disappointment. And in today's political climate, being mediocre isn't just forgettable, it's dangerous. When leaders hide behind charm and avoid hard decisions, everyone pays the price. By stripping away his polished image, Kelly shows that Minnesota hasn't gained stability under Walz. It's been left unsettled and adrift.
And Vice President Harris said that she told you to be a little bit more careful on how you say things.
Well, I did it, even the other day of just speaking passionately about these gun violence situations and meeting with these survivors. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I do think in these positions, whether it be governor or being vice president of the United States, you do need to be careful. You do need to be a little more thoughtful on it.
Okay, guys, I will submit to you that the American people are not dumb. And I would submit to you that the American people will look over "I'm friends with school shooters," which he said in that vice presidential debate, as him misspeaking. Everyone will give him that grace. But it's not going to work on this litany of other lies, because you don't misspeak over and over.
Kelly exposes the harsh reality of Walz's main tactic, projecting a charming persona while repeatedly failing to handle criticism. Behind every storybook smile lies a career built on evasion rather than vision. He has long relied on the public's short attention span, grinning, repeating slogans, and moving on. Despite his rhetoric about accountability, his administration has become nearly immune to critique. Tough questions are buried in bureaucracy, drowned in talking points, or delayed until they're forgotten. Kelly frames it not as strategy, but as folly disguised as leadership. Politically, it's like covering water damage and hoping no one notices the cracks spreading underneath.
On Wednesday in Pennsylvania, and here's how he handled it.
I have my dates wrong. I was in Hong Kong and China in 1989. That move from Hong Kong into China, it was profound for me. That was the summer of democracy. I said it's where I understood how sacred democracy was. It's what encouraged me, about 15 back and forths with my students, taking them to China. I speak like everybody else speaks. I need to be clear, I will tell you that, but here's my whole point on that thing with China. I do understand China a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump. Kamala Harris understands.
The cracks in Walz's leadership are widening. He presents himself as a champion for Minnesota's schools, yet academic performance is slipping, with reading and math scores declining. His answer? More funding without accountability. Kelly highlights the absurdity of promising progress while maintaining the status quo. Students fall behind, parents grow frustrated, and teachers are left drained. Walz talks about equity, but without effective implementation, it's little more than costly window dressing. Even with his supposed economic savvy, many Minnesotans feel overworked and barely scraping by. Kelly cuts through the spin to reveal the truth. Walz has perfected the mix of appearance over achievement.
On an instance there, proud of the service that I've done, proud to be a teacher in that classroom, proud to have been very public all these years, and owning it when I, said, look, I was there in August of '89. And I think the policies, whether it be dealing with China and understanding China's human rights record, what you can be certain there is that Kamala Harris and I aren't going to, pick dictators on speed dial.
Well, but it's one of the things with trust. So there are going to be some people who say, we can't trust him even tell the truth about himself.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
Well, I said they know who I am. I know who I am. I know the work that I've done. I know that things get spun in a political.
Kelly's critique of Walz's tendency to follow rather than lead is perhaps her harshest. He waits to see which way the wind blows before labeling his next move as courageous. During the George Floyd protests, this approach left him unable to satisfy anyone. Too strict for some, too lenient for others. Kelly calls it indecision dressed up as balance. The same pattern appeared during the pandemic. Businesses faltered, mental health crises grew, and schools remained closed for long stretches. Walz led from fear, not foresight, and as a result, families bore the brunt of the consequences.